1 second. Give me 1 second, family. Islam. Give me 1 second. Hey, Moors, if y'all like what we saying, man, if Moors like what we saying, if it's on your heart, then please give a simple $5 donation, a $10 donation to our Cash App, $KG Bay, if it's on your heart. If it's not, it's still love. But if you was in the physical temple and I invited you, I hope it would be placed on your heart to give a charitable contribution of your choice. But give me a second, man. I just got to handle one thing. We're going to get into this teaching. I hope you got your pencils and your papers. Please. 1 second, Morris. Okay, hold on, y'all. All right. But yeah, we live now, bro. Islam. Can everybody hear what I'm saying? When I be telling more is the time, but you know how some mores are. So I'm gonna get straight to the teachings. Everybody good? I hope everybody good. We got to remove the lies, man. Oh, hold on. Got to stir my tea up. My bad, y'all. We got to remove the lies. I hope you got your pencils and your papers. Like I said, Morris, if y'all like the teachings, man, if Allah put it on your heart, to send a simple donation to our Cash App, $KG Bay. Like I said, we a real organization, man. And if you was in the temple, man, once our temple will be established and you start coming to Arizona, I'm sure you'll give a $5 donation or a $10 donation. And that's all, man. Okay, I got you. Yep, it's Cash App, $KG Bay. And a charitable contribution of your choice. That's all. I mean, we do real things, man. We print literature. I've gathered and compiled over 20 books. I got more stuff coming out right now, man. Like I said, we got a lot of stuff happening. Our webpage coming. It's a lot we got coming, man. The teachers getting ready to start back up on Zoom. Okay. But before I even get into the law aspect of it, I want us Moors to be clear on what we all about and be able to stand strong and proud That's why I say people always picking characters. People always acting like there's some Crips and Bloods, picking characters. I mean, we got to be honest with this, man. This ain't no this person versus the person that y'all say. I don't like to say names. The person that y'all say, everybody that's always fighting. This ain't about that. This is about us understanding who we are in the science. We're not. This is not no basketball sports team we picking like someone's right and someone's wrong. If both Negroes wrong, they wrong. Brothers don't want to resurrect things, and brothers don't want to give the truth. They want to get into some backbiting and arguing. Thank you for the donation, Moore. Yep, it's Cash App $KG Bay. Thank you for the donation. And that's what I be telling Moors, how we doing things, man. Especially when I deal with economics. Here it is. I have a real profession in life, and I help other people, man, set their business up and nonprofits and my own people. I don't help them. And then we fall for scams when people talk about that it's going to magically make your credit right and get you some $1 million worth of credit. And I'm like, okay, how are you going to pay it back? And it's just a lot of things that people get caught up because I told y'all, poor people talk about money. Rich people, we talk about ideas and the ideas of freedom, not no damn couple dollars. We don't talk poor talk. We talk about group economics. Just like when I tell y'all, once we get 100 members giving $100 a month, man, don't y'all know how much power that is? That's $120,000 in one calendar year, tax exempt. I'm legal just like everybody else. That's why you get a tax exempt receipt with us. We real, man. We have the right to teach our own brothers and sisters, spiritually, religious, scientifically, educational wise. And we let these other brothers just talk, and go on and just do lectures and keep it going. That's entertainment. Man, we got literature, man. This ain't nothing we hide like we trying to hide something from brothers and sisters like I got some secret. No, it's sacred with us. There's nothing secret with me. This sacred, but you must be sacrifice something and be willing to be educated on truth. Understanding this science. Not giving the credit to someone outside yourself. Removing the ego. That's what this is about, man. And that don't even make sense for a person to know they don't know and then want to ask a whole bunch of questions and challenge someone that you know understands and been through the fire. We're supposed to fall behind righteousness, man, not destroy it. So if more is like what we saying, man, if it's on your heart, man, if Allah places it on your heart to give a small charitable contribution to our Cash App $KG Bay, $5, it's all good. I even send you pieces of my literature. Moors that don't have my literature, once you send a donation, send me an email, goodmancurry@gmail.com, and I'll send you a PDF of my book just for the $5 donation. I got a whole bunch. If you want to be a member and a student, I'll send you the syllabus. You get something with me. I have a full library. Turbans, everything, our shimags, everything. All our lapel pins, I have them all. But that's all, man. I'm a real organization, and I'm here for my brothers and sisters, and we do operate off the support of the people. That's why I tell Moors, the laws work for us. You can't let somebody talk about what 501c3 is and what tax exempt status is, and they never even done working in community. They never even have experience doing work in the community. You just listen to somebody say this and that, and I say, okay, do you go to work? Yep, so that means you for profit. You pay taxes. So what are you talking about? And then you let all these other tax-exempt organizations extract money from you, and then I'll be asking Negroes, they say, oh, well, I'll give to this organization. I'm like, what organization? Oh, this, that, and the other. I say, man, a penny probably go to that organization. The rest go to the CEOs. This is real right here. You can donate to what we doing right here, the Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and School, and you get a tax-exempt receipt at the end of the year. Just like all my donors, all the professors at Grand Canyon and the other universities that I graduated from when I started my organization. That's how I go to schools and teach, man. With the help of the people. And once our physical temple is out here in Arizona, man, it's over. Once brothers and sisters start migrating out here, and I start showing y'all the land in St. John's, man, we get 40, 50, 200 acres, and we start building our log cabins. And we start building our trailer homes. Thanks for the donation. Not no shabby stuff. And it's our religious community. The laws. The laws protect us, man. So you got to understand what I'm saying, Morris. When you're not black, thanks for the donation, Noble. You're not black. Understand certain things and context. Just like, man, what I'm doing, I'm setting the paradigm, man. I'm building us up to where we need to be. Even the scriptures tell you there's nothing wrong with your you. When you get the 1599 Geneva Bible, remember I told y'all, in the 1599 Geneva Bible, man, it calls you a blackamoor. If black meant more, it would have called you black or black. Remember, I dropped this down yesterday that more don't mean black. But we got to understand in the biblical scriptures, they talking about Asiatics. When in the biblical scripture it says, I am black because the sun hath looked upon me. Just explaining the hue of his skin, not his nationality per se. And you know we're not black. We're olive colors. These is facts. These are scientific facts. We're not black. That's in Solomon 1st chapter, the 5th and the 6th verse. May this be known to all whom it concern. Many scholars have studied the verse mentioned, used the verse to authorize them to say he or she are black. They teach other that they are the same. Likewise, watch where I'm going. We, as more scholars, as true educators, as true historians, we teach that the complexion of shade of the Asiatic skin is olive, just like in a 15. What is that? That's like in a dictionary, the Webster Dictionary over there. I should go get it for y'all. American is the copper color racist. I should go get it right over there. I pull it up all the time for y'all. But I have all dictionaries, all old dictionaries, before they was changed. But the skin is olive. And it can be determined as light olive, medium olive, or dark olive. It's necessary, Morris. We only make the determination when we see the individual, because the great God of the divine nature have caused their shade to be, just like he causes darkness and light. That's in Genesis, the 1st and 2nd verse. The wise King Solomon, per se, if we're going to tell a biblical story, said that he was black, per se, and he gave his reason, which is because the sun hath looked upon him. So if you would say in the sun, or if you would stay in the sun long enough, regardless what shade of skin you are, come out of the sun and look in a mirror, you will be different from the shade you were born with. You are dark because the sun can cause things to change. And if you stay out of the sun long enough, you will return back to your natural complexion. I'm telling you, man. Thanks for the donation, more. Cash App, $ KG Bay. I appreciate it. And everybody that's in the donation, I promise you, email me, Goodman, KHARY @gmail.com, and I'll send you a PDF copy of one of my books. You send $30 or $40, I'll send you all 7. You send a $40 donation, I'll send you all 7 of my books, PDF. It's no problem with me, because I print my own literature. That's why I don't put my stuff on Amazon. It ain't about the dollar with me. I have a product, and I can do the product for whatever I want to. Why? Because I'm the author, because I'm the publisher. That's why. And this is a donation to your organization. Y'all ain't listening. Legally and lawfully. Our religious organization, just like any church, just like any other thing. And the only other proof I can find concerning the ancient statement that was misunderstood by scholars is the history of Solomon's ancient grandfather. If we're going to tell a biblical story, Joseph, the son of Jacob. It is my will that you have a doubt. That's why you got to study the 37th and the 45th chapter of Genesis, Moors. You will observe that Joseph was a Canaanite from the land of Canaan. Just like we, the people who call ourselves names that delude to slavery, are ancient Moabites from the land of Moab, who was driven out the land by Joshua and received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle in a portion of Egypt at that time. You also got to understand that Joseph's brother was jealous of him. If they're going to tell a biblical story, They didn't want to kill him if they gonna tell a story. So what did they do? They sold him to the what? Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. If they gonna tell a story. The Ishmaelite brought Joseph where? To Egypt. Joseph stayed in Egypt for what? A long time, and married a governor degree and became a what? Food administrator for being a good interpreter of what? A dream. If we're going to tell a story, the dream stated that there would be a famine in the world, right? And the famine did come, and Jacob sent some of his sons to Egypt for food. So we know that story. Right? But we Moorish Americans, who are the ancient Moabites from the land of Moab, which locate in the ancient Canaan parallel of with Joseph, we are the same pattern as Joseph. I hope y'all, that's why when people say we the people of the book, I say, what book then? See, they get you with all those, how can I say it, generalities, but I say, okay, well, what book? So how you gonna connect yourself to the foremothers and forefathers of this world, and you dissing things because you think everything, you getting it from the wrong perspective and from the wrong narrative? I'm telling you. If you take a Moorish American who've denounced the names that allude to slavery, and you put this Moorish American among the 10 or more individuals who haven't denounced the names alluded to slavery, and they all would be looking alike. The only way that you will know the Moorish American, you must go close to each individual. You won't recognize it because they ain't even gonna have nothing known that self-identified, but they say they Moorish. See, the 10 will talk that Negro talk, that black, that color, that Ethiopian talk per se. And the one that talk the strange or that so-called foreign talk, explaining that he is not the name alluded to slavery, that one is a Moorish American, then that's what they're called crazy. But we know the history and science, they the ones that's crazy. Because any scholar, any European, anybody that's a real something educator, especially a European potentate Mason, which I know plenty of them. I told y'all, I'm part of many houses of thought. And I'm telling you, the copy too. That's why they sons of Muslims. And they'll laugh at you. They want you to call yourself black. Because they know you don't know the laws. A black is not a citizen. You don't got to be mad at me. I always try to clear things up. Look not upon me because I'm black per se, to the best of my understanding in the science that I deliver. And if I haven't, man, I always leave room for discussion. So let's dig. Let's dig when people just be talking, especially my empresses, and they just post things, and I'm like, man, here we go again with just posting. And then I say, you can't get mad at me if I'm a historian and I take things all away and I'm introduced to certain information and we just post things, and the first thing we do, we get upset. And I say, would you defend that in the court of law? Or I'm just posting. See, I just don't post. Because if you post something and a person take that literally, that's messed up. What you just playing? And that's why I say people just be posting stuff and haven't corrected themselves. So let's talk about nationalize or nationalization. This is what I'll be talking about. Thanks for the donation. When people be just making stuff up. When I say it's the difference from it's dispensations, and the person that leads you a certain way, but they won't go any further. And then when you take them further, they get upset. That's how you know they have a motive. So let's deal with it. All sheiks in the temple should know what I'm saying. Nationalize or nationalization. The word nationalize or nationalization here in America, I'm gonna talk about that real deep in a minute, but I just want to give you a clarification on how these words were developed. Yes, how the words is developed. These words were programmed on our minds in 1942. Y'all, I hope y'all know that, by an official, a major in the national headquarters, the Selective Service System. Yeah, the headquarters was located on the 21st and C Street, Northwest Washington, D.C. at that time. I hope y'all know that. That's why I said your own sheik will lie to you. They to get you all caught up and excited. To do what? Nothing. And back in the times, the sheiks, Richard L., the sheiks, they were sent to the office by the state headquarters of the Selective Service over Maryland because his local board made a ruling that we Moorish people were Negro, black, and colored, and Ethiopian. And the state director said to change that ruling, a proclamation had to be handed down from national headquarters of Selective Service System of Washington, D.C. And we were sent to confer with General Hersey, Hersey. But the general was not in. 3 years later, we did not confer with the general. At that time, we were referred to a major. After the major heard our complaints, he told us that our complaints were deeper than he could dream. We asked the major, did he thoroughly understand our problem? And if he did, make us know it. The major said when the Germans took over Czechoslovakia, the Germans nationalized the conquered people according to the German laws. Are y'all listening? When America conquered you people, America made slaves out of you people. Tell Drew Ali to send into the headquarters all available proof of you people being Moorish Americans. We showed the major Form 1099. But I keep telling y'all that ain't no damn trust fund. Form 1099 at the 6th act of the law inside. The major said, this is it. Leave it with me. And I will run it into Chicago and get the attachments. We told the mayor we had no orders to leave the book. Our authority of Form 1099. The major said, tell Drew Ali to send it into the headquarters. We will send it over to the Justice Department and make law of it. And you can talk it all you want to. The major called up the state headquarters in Maryland and authorized our change. Then the major said, in the times, this headquarters will make all the slaves Moorish Americans. It will take days, weeks, months, and years. He vowed that you people will be nationalized. We asked the major to put it in writing. The major did. He gave us a slip, and on the slip it stated, write the national headquarters and submit all available proof why the slaves are Moorish Americans. The major was talking with such a deep wisdom, I imagine in my mind that he was Jesus Christ per se. But y'all know what I'm saying. I'm telling y'all. So we went back to Drew Ali and waited 2 years for the order. And in 1944, orders were given. When we went back to the headquarters, the major wasn't there. He had programmed another major. And the major told us he knows the old nigger story. Blah, blah, blah. So I'm just setting a highlight for y'all, man. I'm setting a highlight for y'all. I'm going to give you a little bit about the resurrection. You may also get the impression that we are in the Moorish movement, that we don't believe in Yahshua the Messiah or so-called Jesus Christ. I hope y'all following what I'm saying. I'm just clearing things up. So when people be talking about they follow the teachings of our prophet, I'm like, no, you're not. You're not even teaching our Moorish Quran, because you wouldn't be dissing nothing. Some in the movement will tell you that they don't accept the so-called Jesus Christ, which is Yahshua the Messiah. But you are Jesus in the flesh. I'm not talking about nothing outside of it when we're talking about Moorish science and Islamism. So please don't get caught up in no religion. I'm explaining something to you. And why would they would say that? They would say this because they don't know. That's what a Negro, they don't know. But they will accept anything that Prophet Noble Drew Ali approves. See? And you will possess, in the science that I'm going to give you, I'm going to help you illuminate or clarify your mind. But you must follow the science of thought. And the first thing I want you to understand is to take the Moorish questionnaire and look at the back of it carefully. If you have it, pull it up. And you will find Muhammad, which is Jesus in a disguise. I hope y'all following the science. Every adult will tell you this. If they won't tell you this, they're not telling you no science. And they want to act like it's some secret, like they some Negro Masons. All you got to do is turn to page 5, question 81. And if Jesus was reincarnated to Muhammad, being Jesus in another form, use your hippocampus, Morris. So if you look at the questionnaire, you will find the word anointed. You may not find it on the new print, but it's on the old print. I'll follow you. And in Greek, anointed means Christ. So therefore, when you look on the back of our authority with a clean heart, you're looking at the so-called Jesus Christ per se. And just like our prophet in one of the ayats, he said, children, your hair is not kinky, it's woolly like your brother Jesus. Prove me wrong. I'll go right to the minutes. So I'm asking, do you understand? So the word resurrection has many different meanings, and it all depends on how you want to use it. And it's never to be used to destroy humanity, but it's used to uplift fallen humanity at all times. And resurrection, that's what we're doing. We're going back to something. We're not creating nothing new. We're not creating no new law. We're defending the Constitution. We're uplifting. We are rehabilitating. All mean the same if you look at it from a good common sense point of view. Just like Ish. Negroes always get the negative connotation. Ish, similar to but not original. That's to a goofball, but we're positive. Ish and Moorish is the way we live, the way we love, the way we wear our fez and our turban and our shemad, and the way we teach our babies, the way we educate, the way we covenant with a brother that's teaching the science, the way we help a brother build so we can be part of that body. That's why we say a resurrection. That means that we are resurrection, the more science here in America. That's what I'm doing. From other common law to supreme federal law, because statutory copyright registration is federal. It's federal. Article 1 and the 8th paragraph of Section 8 of the United States Constitution. Research this. Don't get caught up in nobody just barking. That's why our prophet said, be yourself. I want you to be yourself. And be yourself, it has many meanings. In chapter 3 of our Moorish Quran, Lessons by Elihu on the Unity of Life, he gives a good clarification of the subject of being yourself. In giving my observation on humanity, all I can say is, Moors, it's the mother of virtues, the harmony of life. She breeds justice, mercy, and love, and right, Moors. Humanity is great, and it is good. It was, it is, and evermore to be, Moors. Islam. That's why I said, I've studied myself carefully. You should study yourself carefully. And I know, just like you should know, what you are thinking. And you are thinking wrong. And if you notice, besides humanity, Moors, you will find, or she will defend herself. Just like when I had to correct a Negro, when I show things, when I show pictures, and I say, man, when a Moor say something, they'll show their hand when I know that they're not elite, when they just look at something, and I say, you looking at it totally wrong. And that's the first thing Moors do. And I say, well, what you say you studying the science? And Moors say they sheiks. And I say, man, you're not studying science. You're looking at stuff totally wrong. You don't understand the analogy, the parable, and the symbology. You're just looking at things with your carnal eye. I promise you. I promise you. A Moor hit me up, was like, oh man, the symbology and that all wrong. And then one of the sheiks that he's supposed to be under was like, I want to apologize for his mouth. He don't even know what he's looking at. He was like, man, he have no business even speaking on something. He don't understand the symbology. And I say, man, it's all good. But that's why I say, I know who most people study under. This supreme wisdom here. What you learn somewhere else, I promise you, they will not be able to explain the science. That's why most Moors operating as Negroes. But let's get back to the science. But when you notice, besides humanity, you will find, or she will defend herself. You see that? Now watch this. Now watch me explain the symbology. Watch me explain the symbology. Watch this. She will defend herself, and also a sword land beside her likewise. You saw that, right? A thought may materialize in your lower self. How can humanity protect herself laying down? See, that's what the carnal mind think. That's what the first, I gotta say it, how I'm gonna say it. That's how the Negro showed his hand when I knew he didn't study, and when I knew the people that he was under wasn't teaching him nothing. The answer is, Moors, if you notice, Moors, humanity is laying in a horizontal position. Look, I hope y'all, when I say more is not looking at things the right way, humanity is laying in a horizontal position. So I want you to keep that in your hippocampus. Right? Please turn to the cover to a vertical position and see how humanity is. I hope y'all do that. And notice the position of man's image. And you may say humanity's eyes are shut. I'm telling you, man. I hope y'all understanding what I'm talking about. I hope more is understanding the symbology. If you're not, then that's okay. But don't let nobody tell you something wrong. So don't trust that if you think that some eyes are shut. If you don't believe fire, that it will burn you until you touch it, then humanity is fire. Are y'all following this? Man, if y'all following the teaching, what I'm saying, somebody say Islam, man. Touch her or any woman in her form and you will be cut. When I talk about we protect our empresses, this time I am not talking in degrees in science, Morris. When somebody takes you to a hospital, the doctor will say, this is no work for an amateur, but the work of a master, right, Morris? Islam? Talk to me. But the work of a master. After the doctor patches you up, you may decide to take this situation to court. And you shouldn't do that. And you may end up getting some time out of, you might get some time from amongst society to rest your nerves. When I'm telling Morris, when they just want to be paper pushers. And I say, man, be careful. I'm telling you, because you will get some time to sit down. I promise you this. I'm telling you, I know too many Morris locked up right now in Arizona. And my advice to you is to nurse your wounds and be under the right auspices. I'm right here. You must understand the prereqs first, man. Morris want to jump right to advanced civics and get their rear end handed to them. Don't play with fire. And fire in any form will burn you, one way or the other. You got to remember everything that Allah, that the God of nature put on this earth is for good and for a purpose. Woman, humanity, fire is good. Respect them and they will honor you. Are y'all listening to what I'm saying, man? See, I'm not going to get all into the deep because I can get so deep into the teachings, but I want you to become students and members so we can all walk synchronized. Now let's destroy this garbage with the laws. Y'all ready? Let me get some libations. This should be going viral. I'm finna break the laws down. I've done this so many times. But let's make it clear. The Emancipation Proclamation of 1863 did not free a single Negro, black or colored, slave from the legally binding slave laws of 1779. I hope y'all know that, right? The United States Constitution, the 3/5 clause. However, the same can be said of the 13th Amendment of 1865. This, the first of 3 Reconstruction Amendments. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Did in fact abolish the institution of slavery, which opened the doors of freedom to all African descents in North America. So you got to understand, Morris, that the 13th Amendment was the greatest and only document of manumissions. Hold on. Hold up.
Oh, you live?
Yeah, y'all need some help? Right, Morris?
Yeah.
So when you look up manumissions, that was the greatest document of manumissions ever to be enacted by the Congress of the United States. This is a fact. I hope y'all writing this stuff down. That's why I want y'all to stand with me, man. We don't got to stand behind these people calling y'all some Black Lives Matter, all this dumb mess, this 14th Amendment garbage. I'm giving you laws so you can research. That's a fact. Although the 2 sections ratified were just watered down versions of the 20 sections originally proposed. Just 1 section was needed to free all so-called African descents from their mental slavery and constitutional bondage in the United States. But after the day in 1865, Morris, when the 2 section passed of the 13th original 20, it only took one of those to free all the slaves from every U.S. nook and cranny. I'm telling you. That's why I said a lot of stuff is wrapped up in masonry. And that's why I said I'm telling y'all what I know for a fact. I don't care about no Republican or Democrat. Same thing. Remember that the United States has never been without its slaves per se. That's a vital ingredient for understanding factual American history. But it's not often used by most historians, especially these Negro historians at these so-called black universities that's ran by Europeans. No disrespect. It must also be remembered for the only time in her history, Moors, that the U.S. ratified 3 major bodies of law until its Constitution, which consider her beloved parcels. These 3 Reconstruction Amendments were written in the exclusive interest of slaves, ex-slaves, and all other Negroes only. Negroes only. Negroes black. I'm telling you. As I'm going to show y'all later in the science, the word Reconstruction was used to identify the upgrading of slavery, more so than downloading post-war America into a Reconstruction period. Both of these political movements took place at the conclusion of the Civil War, but it was later, which most people assume, indicative of what was actually being reconstructed, Moors. And without the enslavement of the indigenous people of West Africa, Moors, these laws would have been ratified into existence. I'm telling you, man. In order to understand in the 13th and the 14th Amendments, Moors, particularly as pertaining to American slaves, ex-slaves, and as granted privileges, Moors, as to oppose human rights, you got to focus briefly on what prompted the ratifications. And you got to understand that most U.S. citizens were fooled into believing that the U.S. actually surrendered her slaves with no strings attached. That's why when people want to diss Noble Drew Ali and our prophet with a lot of ayats when he said a fish would not take the bait, knowing the hook was hidden there. A fish would not take the bait, knowing the hook was hidden there. Hey, Isis, can you do me a favor, cousin? And you know it. That's why America is totally unknowledgeable of being a slaveless government. This is free information, especially chattel slavery. When we talk about machination of a Maya people, it always been a divine issue. And the average time any nation has to suffer so-called slavery is about what? 400 years. That is the duration of physical bondage per se. And this was no exception to the so-called enslavement of the West Coast Africans by the Albion nations of Europe from 1490 to 1865. That's 373 years during that time period. And although U.S. slavery was the only opposed by a few during Abe Lincoln's presidency, and historically versed, they knew the time was nigh for the emancipation. And Lincoln, as a man, did not care whether the Africans were free or remained slaves. Man, I got all Lincoln documents, all his letters. But the Emancipation Proclamation was such a perfect hoax of executive power. There are people like during this time period, like 140 years later, that still believe it freed the slaves. And Negroes today still think it freed some slaves. And Lincoln, like most politicians, he used the knowledge of history. That's why most Negroes don't know history and law. And he used the knowledge of history as a platform for his acquired office. The broader their historical base, the stronger their political race. If he didn't know law and history, how did he defend the Moor in court or the Negro in court to prove he wasn't Negro, black, and colored? Huh? Abraham Lincoln knew his history, and he knew it well from the world's leading history book. What? The Bible. Especially the book of Deuteronomy, the Leviticus codes, which dealt with the systems of slavery. I'm telling you. And at that time, you got to understand that the enslavement of the so-called Africans was strongly supported by the three orders, or the three of the world's four major religions. I'm telling you, the Buddhists, Hindus, the Confucians, those were the only religious order exempt from the modern enslavement of the ripe-skinned people of the continental Africa. That's why on our card to say we respect all the laws and the prophets. Jesus, and I'm giving the holy names, which is Yeshua, Muhammad, Buddha, and Confucius. I'm telling you, if we're gonna say something, and by no means suggest that the hands of India are innocent of the African slave trade, especially when their history has been stained by the world's foremost African slavers of all time, which were the pale-skinned Arabs. Research who are the Siddhas of India. When I teach this Exhuming of the Nation, I'm gonna do that another time. The so-called Albion Jews of all people. And when we talk about European Jews, those are Russian, Bolivians, no disrespect. That's what it is. And Muslims with the support of Christians, all with their holy books in hand, marked over 500 million Africans from 1092 to this present day. And the public awareness of the religions with their participation in a so-called African slave trade will begin to end during Lincoln's presidency. But Mr. Lincoln said, there must be an inferior and a superior. And I, as much as any man, am in favor of superior being assigned to the white race. And most Bible thumpers, Negroes too, at that time were deeply convicted that they were doing God's will to enslave the so-called blacks. The odd thing about this is that it was they who labeled all Africans black in the first place. Because in the 1599 Geneva Bible, you was a Moor. And this state of mind must have forgotten all this stuff. Negroes got amnesia. That's why the us, when you see the us, referred to the corporate United States of America, assumed by many persons to be a sovereign independent power, and the constitutional concept and interpretation of a citizen did not derive its authoritative powers from the Declaration of Independence. This is elementary, man, of the original 13 United States of America. In this course of human events, Moors, they discovered that a person was bound by the laws of nature and nature's God, that they held these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal, and their creator endows them with certain unalienable rights. Among these are life, the right to live, liberty, the right to be free, the right to pursuit of happiness, the right to be content, foundated. That sounds like the religious rights to me. The totality of the rights became what? The Bill of Rights. The U.S. Constitution was written by the people and for the people. The laws established by freedom and free men were from living souls who were sovereigns. You ain't no damn sovereign citizen. That's an oxymoron. You ain't nothing. You ain't sovereign by your damn self. That's the problem. From the wombs of their mothers, U.S. citizens, on the other hand, are belligerents in the field and are subject to its jurisdictions, which is Washington, D.C., and all U.S. citizens are 14th Amendment persons, property, implemented by the Civil Rights Act of 1866. Thank you. Which was originally established to disguise the newly freed slaves. The only problem was that the European political powers of the days, they dug a shallow grave of fiend sensory for the ex-slaves, and they later fell into their own damn grave. This is why today, if the Americans actually knew what a U.S. citizen was, according to their law, not nothing I'm saying, they really wouldn't want to be one neither, pertaining to their laws and that perspective of a black. I hope y'all following me. What most people fail to realize, Moors, is during the drafting of this great document, the European men, age 21, were the only people recognized in America during that time. Women, other nationals, other nationalities enslaved were not considered as whole persons or people, at least not with rights that a pale-skinned man had to respect. And y'all know I'm telling the truth, man. It takes a number of persons to make a people, as was written in Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3. The word person was summarized into fifths, and 5 fifths made one complete person. Islam? Somebody talk to me. Islam? I'm giving you all science. This person, as endowed by the Creator and the laws of nature, was declared the whole number and a free person. This endowment with the totality of fifths made a complete and perfect person, and subsequently a citizen. You like how I said that, Mom? I said a citizen.
Yes, a citizen.
When the USA was first formed under its Constitution, its sovereignty was for and by the people. The word person was used by the people to describe their property, business, fictional beings. Persons gave life to the corporate Americas, the oaths, the affidavits, notaries, and self-incriminating pro se used by straw men. You got those Masonic members of the science. When I tell y'all this is our science, we don't got to fall under those Negroes that know they under some European masonry. And they'll be moored by the words, I am a citizen of the USA. And the words have been printed on the cars. I'm telling you. But it's a difference between sovereigns and citizens. When you look at the amendments, when you look at the freeborns and bondservants, Moorish Americans and Negro church members, or unalienable rights and inalienable privileges. If the assumable citizens of the USA only knew the true legal definition of citizen, then they would be ticked. You know what I'm about to say, don't you, Ma?
Yeah.
Then they would be ticked to the highest of what, Ma? Ticktivity. And would never want to be a citizen again. You don't got to listen to me. The true 5/5 components of a natural person: spirit, the indestructible God essence in man, the soul, actions of the mind's powers, which are thinking, reasoning, willing, understanding, your body, flesh, human vehicle made of the earth, often indigenous to the land of birth, nationality, the descendant birth attachment through an especial. There we go with that Medelo's frame, especial, nation or tribe, free national name, lineage, identity, and your creed. Religious path of God consciousness established through forefathers, vine and fig tree. That's why the above statement, your nationality and your creed, were the two main fifths extracted from the African nationals. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and many other European free Masonic slave owners who signed the Constitution of the United States also wrote in their chattel as 3/5 of a person. And the Constitution thus became the first legal national deed of ownership of African slaves in the New World. Prove me wrong. No scholar would go against that. The only person gonna go against that is some lying sheep that's gonna get you to act like they can nationalize you and make you something. This act alone legalized racism and apartheid into the interior fabric of the new American culture. It certified all Negro, blacks, and colors as 3/5 of all other persons, and at a level of a beast. And any man without national roots from which to draw strength and the great God for his guidance is no longer a complete man or woman. And for those who keep up with the total commercialization of corporate USA as portrayed in The Wizard of Oz, you will easily see that the Negro, black, and colored as purely a fictional character, a fake citizen, painted into the scheme of an ex post facto government per se. That's why our Prophet Noble Drew Ali appeared and gave the lost found the shoes per se necessary to rejoin the human families of nations. That's what I'm resurrecting. Your nationality and your divine order. It's impossible for us to leave the land of make-believe without our shoes handed down by our ancient foremothers and forefathers. Now all you got to do is apply it. Apply their will and climb the 3 steps of thinking ladder with its rounds of belief, faith, and fruition. That's in our Moorish Quran, chapter 7, verse 25 to 31. So to attempt to remove in whole or part one or more filths from any man is a conscious act known simultaneously as both a sin and a crime. And ironically, Moors, if we want to just talk about things, if people say they scholars and historians and deal with law, I'm giving you everything that can be researched. The United States judicial system marks the violation as a federal crime and is known throughout the U.S. courts as denationalization. The irony in this crime is that it is committed manually by every state. Why? Since the 14th Amendment became law and then written, which means state seal, upon the live birth of every freeborn Moorish person in America. But denationalization is played off on the birth certificates. That's why when I talk about the Negro as the sardine, see, y'all don't understand what I'm saying. This is deeper. It's wrapped up in the laws. That's why you got to even beware of lying lawyers. I hate Negro, blacks, and color, and them Negroes that's with them Greek fraternities. That's lawyers, and they under the British Anatolian Registry. They ain't finna tell you the truth, but I'm about to drop a real bomb on you, and then tell me if I'm lying. Watch this. You got to beware of lying lawyers. I'm a legal aid. If you're competent, you can defend yourself with the laws. I give you precedent in cases. It's a thing called doc number. Precedent in law cases. I can look up anything. That's why you got to beware of lying lawyers and sheiks and all that. Any lawyer worth his salt of the so-called bar, they're going to lie to you. I don't care if it's your brother, your uncle, they will lie to you. Just like if you got a dad, an uncle, a brother, a cousin, that's a Mason, he ain't gonna tell you nothing because he don't know nothing. He's just a snowman. The first thing that you know in this science is the last thing that a Negro Mason learns. A Negro Mason is have a potentate, a European over them. Just like the Negroes in the Greek fraternities. So don't get mad at me. But any person that's under the Bar Association, they gonna lie to you. And they gonna swear on the Bible and declare that blacks are citizens of the USA. Watch, ask any so-called attorney. They'll lie to you and say blacks are citizens of the USA because, watch this, and I'm gonna destroy that lie. This is what they're gonna tell you. This is what the attorney gonna say. He gonna say the term other persons of the US Constitution refers to slaves. Watch this. But the 13th Amendment abolished slavery, right? So the Dred Scott decision was replaced by the 14th Amendment. An amendment specifically eliminated the 3/5 formula. So what these fair servants of the courts will not tell their clients is that no constitutional law have ever been handed down by Congress to teach back the latter 2/5 necessary to make the free slaves into a whole person. Are y'all listening to me? A person must be made consciously whole before he can become or she can become a citizen, have the rights of a citizen, and be subject to the jurisdictions of a citizen. That was the truth of the Sundry More Act. Y'all better read it. Everyone, I do mean everyone, anywhere on this planet has all 5/5 and are whole except who? The Negro, the so-called blacks, the so-called Black Lives Matter Negroes, the blacks in America, and the Cetus of India. The 13th Amendment abolished physical slavery, but left psychological, mental slavery in full effect. Because the Negro will argue all up and down today that they black and they African, and that more mean black. They argue with that Negro-centric, Eurocentric propaganda, with that pseudo-academia. And this violates the 2/5, the right of mind, the soul of the 5 gifts from the great God Allah. Speaking of one's right mind, it reminds me of how Christianized Negro, black, and colors, they would pray to a God, a European, no disrespect, or something that don't even look like them, no disrespect, and thank him for allowing them to wake up in the morning, clothed in their white mind. But you got to understand, Moors, that the mind that they woke up with and the gods they were presently serving are not their inherently own. And this is my observation. With the ratification of the 13th Amendment, the enslavement of human bodies is now legally enforced upon criminals. Don't y'all know the ex-slave still existing within the United States is held powerless and subject to its jurisdictions? The 13th Amendment merely closed the doors of slavery in the South, which was without power. And then it just opened the door and the gates to the U.S. governments to protect itself against the rudderless and the ex-slaves. Don't y'all know Lincoln also said, my people do not want them, he's talking about the slaves, to become citizens? And if I could unite my country without freeing the slave, I would do that. Research it. He was actually expressing a European national sentiment. No true red-blooded American wanted to free no slaves. Don't let nobody tell you that lie. Although the ratification of the original 13th Amendment, with its full body of 20 sections, did not reach fruition, and is still the utmost importance for its historical adjudication before the 1864 U.S. Congress to be known to African descents, especially Moors. The enactment of these laws was all about the emancipation and the freedom of their recent grand forefathers. And with the full Senate vote on passing the 13th Amendment, Moors, it was 38 yeas and 7 noes. And the U.S. slave population was 98% illiterate. And not one of them was present to represent themselves as a people. So why the hell do you care about voting? They just wanted you to vote to keep their ass in power. I'm telling you. And now time later, you still thinking something is valid. Let me give y'all some science. When y'all read the constitutions, all persons shall have the right to peacefully to assemble and worship.
But still vote this fool out.
What'd you say, Ma?
I said, but still vote that fool in the White House out.
Of course. That ain't what I'm talking about. But and no president is elected. They all selected. It's things that we don't, and that's why I tell people, okay, you vote, you worried about some president, but you ain't voting locally that really affects you.
Yep.
And then we don't even have our people in political houses. And we call ourselves Moors and we live in these communities. And we let goofballs tell us we ain't gonna do this, but you live in a community that's raggedy as hell. See, that to me is stupid. You got the right of citizens to free and lawful speech in public, blah, blah, blah. But let's get in this 14th Amendment. There was no need for the application of the 14th and the 15th Amendment for the salvation of us. I told y'all in 1865 and to 70, the amendments, though the amendments and the 14th alone is the most crippling and devastating. All it did is transform every U.S. citizen from, I say, sugar cubes to corporate sheets, known as straw men. The power of the South had been its slaves until losing the Civil War. That's why in 1863, the military strategy of the Emancipation Proclamation and the 1870, right? The Negro Voters' Rights Amendment proved the Southern states were powerless without slaves. That's why our prophet taught, and I'm teaching you today, that the 14th and the 15th Amendment brought the North and the South in unit, placing the Southerners who were at that time without power. And since the Civil War was primarily fought between one brother in blue and the other in gray, the 14th Amendment was actually a legal settlement or an agreed order, which took slavery from the gray dispensation and spread it to every state throughout the United States of the Blue Republic. Research it. This was the only way both brothers could settle the long-standing grievance about the power of owning and sustaining slaves in America. It must be remembered, Moors, that the founding fathers and their prosperity were and are seriously and about their slaves. So much that they fought their mother country and each other just to keep their precious human chattel. I hope the British and America's war, I hope y'all know what I'm talking about. We all researched the honorable president of the mighty Saxon nation, Chief Sitting Bull. Research him from 1834 to 1893. was not only Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer's worst daymare, Little Bingham, 1876, but he also knew well the nature of the European Masons in positions of power. The chief said, the cool words of the paleface, spoken in darkness, always melt in the sunlight of his axe. How true, how true. And nowhere is the Masonic esoteric language more vividly demonstrated than in the 14th Amendment, when stuff be over y'all head. Written expressly for the ex-slaves, the Saxons and other indigenous people of America, having our experiencing the terrible whiplash effect of many broken treaties. Rarely do many people of the United States realize the Congressional 13th Amendment was also a manumission treaty with the African descendants of former slaves. This document not only freed the slaves, but also simultaneously created a second new nation of people. The Treaty of Freedom was broken within 3 years of its ratification by the covert and needless 14th Amendment, also living in the same sunlight of European words, the so-called Negro, colored, and black people, being backlash from the 1863 14th Amendment, still believe the Congressional Act made the citizens of the United States. It's really heartbreaking, Moors, when most people discover that it is a divine, natural, and lawful impossibility to make a denationalized person property until a citizen of a free national government. That's impossible. A people are only free when they are true to themselves, pure, clean, and independent. It is of supreme importance for y'all that's listening to me to identify the esoteric and the exoteric, the master words of person or persons and alien, particularly as they are used in Reconstruction amendments and in the parent body U.S. Constitution. See, these words are soaked in the Masonic Maya of European male superiority and this profane world of Africans. I'm telling you, just like law language, a lot of things in law mean different in the general public. Just like the world of Africans, women, handicapped, children, and elderly. They have the appearance of freedom, but have a deceptive core of subjugation and slavery. I'm telling you, man. If Negro, blacks, and colored Moors really wants to see what the U.S. laws say of them, they must understand their language when they are called persons and aliens. Then they can simply rationalize the frivolous possibility of the same constitutional master of slaves over this 400 years, constructive years, will suddenly love them so much as to free them and to recognize them as equal to themselves as citizens. You got to understand what I'm saying. The complete disregard for Negroes as citizens was backed up by nearly a century of non-military support by the United States government until the event of the Little Rock Nine in 1868 to 1957. And during the 89-year period, there were 3,882 recorded lynchings and the 1921 mass bombings of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and millions of cases of Jim Crow segregation. So the 14th Amendment clearly states, listen, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. The italicized words are very consequential to understanding the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. It goes on to read, in addition to no legal abridgment of these privileges or immunities of the citizens, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, property, or equal protection of the laws. This opening clause is in fact an ex post facto reenactment of the Negro and the congressional deed of ownership of all ex-slaves, persons. Prove me wrong. You can't. See, these laws were already written and guaranteed to U.S. citizens as rights early in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. So why was it necessary for these rights to appear as privileges again in its 14th Amendment? Because Negroes don't read. I'll tell you why. To make provisions for millions of free slaves that were not included in the Constitution designed by the people, for the people, that was endowed by their creator. That's why history showed that the Negro, black, and colored slaves was and is endowed by his owner. And it is the duty of all creators to endow their creations. This also revealed blacks as an American-made product inclusively. That's right, that's what I said. Made, certified, and marked only in America. The owner of all Negro, black, and colored people was and will always be the exclusive makers of Negroes. Whoever made your black ass, you going around talking about some Black Lives Matter. Somebody made that. Who your master? And then you see Killer Mike with them shirts on, it say kill your masters. Did y'all peep that? Peep what I'm saying. See, I'm telling you, everything is symbolic. Look at Killer Mike's shirt and T.I. shirt. It said kill your masters. Tell me I'm lying. Tell me I'm lying. So they telling y'all that they some niggas. They some blacks. Look at they said what it said. It said kill y'all masters. Who the hell your master? Ain't nobody my damn master. I ain't never was no slave. I wasn't born no freaking slave. Are y'all listening to the words that are coming out of my mouth? So these Negroes are identifying as some slaves. These Negroes got on shirt talking about kill your masters. Who? Who? Somebody talk to me. Y'all think I ain't catch that, did y'all? I'm telling you symbolic. I'm giving y'all science to law. See, them Negroes ain't gonna talk how I'm talking. Huh? Somebody talk to me. Huh? Now, you go run and tell that. These Negroes be suckers. Y'all more following entertainers. I told y'all, them Negroes, they ain't nothing but some damn fake ass activists. I'm a teacher, a scholar, a leader. I deal with laws. Everything is symbology. Most of them go over Negroes' heads because they got y'all to believe in a spookism. Well, pull it up. He had on a shirt that said, kill your masters. Who is your master? Let me regurgitate something back to y'all. Let me read this again. History showed the Negro, black, and colored blacks as an American-made product, made, certified, and marked only in America. The owner of all Negro, black, and colored people was and will always be who? The exclusive maker of Negroes. Who the maker of Negroes? Them Negroes got on shirts say kill your master. Somebody talk to me. So you see how these Negroes still on some goofy stuff? And these Negroes talk about they in politics, but they want to know their umbrella in politics and vote for stuff that work in their city. They always jumping on some European bandwagon. Anoint your own brother, because Negroes is niggas, and they don't want to be Moorish Americans because they're getting a check. Now, talk about kill your masters. Who? All creators are the true owners of their creations. Did y'all hear me? All creators are the true owners of their creations, and God never made any black people. Huh? During the period of physical slavery, it was understood that the slave was the property of the slave master, endowed with his name, marked, and provisions. And you got these Negro celebrities talking about kill your master. Oh, so what, they telling you a slave? Oh, I see you, ISIS. I see you. I see you. You see, hey, come here. Let me see. Let me show you. Let me show you how my cousin. Let me rocking that turban with the pen. Come on, show that. I don't be showing my family too much. You see how cuz we represent. That's family. Come back. You see that? This how the empress should be walking around. This how you know who you are when they see you. When they see your empress. Come up a little bit more. You see that? That's how we walk around in the world. Thank you, cousin. And them Negroes got on shirts talking about kill your masters. Them Negroes going around saying you black. That's why they talk about some Black Lives Matter. I bet you they ain't on no so-called front line. Them Negroes at their crib chilling with their feet up.
I got it.
It was understood that the slave was the property of the slave master, endowed with his name, marked, and provisions. The 14th Amendment merely changed and legalized the language to color the institution of history, servitude, and to assume sensory. That's what it is today. And it reads, all persons born. This clause was made to symbolize the nationalization of former slaves into citizens. yet without the free national descent name of their forefathers and their own true nationality. Then by divine and natural law, they are still slaves and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Property now owned by the U.S. government, its courts and laws. In short, the clause gave the USA assumed ownership again over the ex-slaves before they could wake up from the mental blow to the head that would make them a nation. With all due respect, Moors, to the U.S. courts, I'm giving you science. Being the fiend owner of the ex-slaves today, particularly their inheritance, but the 13th Amendment frees the Africans to proclaim their forefathers' free national name and religion. But they didn't, and they still not doing it today. And these niggas call themselves scholars. I'm right here. This should go viral. Over the centuries of absorbing every form of dehumanization contrived by man, the misnomer Negro, black, and colored have become too accustomed to European handouts. You wanted some damn civil rights. The Big Six sold you out too. And worst of all, they had to be knocked in the head so hard that they are still legally unconscious of themselves and their divine origin. (1865 to 68) was a brief period for any nation to undo chattel slavery, plus salvage themselves from the aftermath of mental slavery. And it was a 3-year null that the 14th was fabricated, forming a legal constitutional death blow to a people freshly still born out of slavery. And this now unfolds into the divine reason why our prophet, like I'm telling you, that I'm trying to plead to y'all, that the United States Constitution has never been changed. That's why there's no need for the application of the 14th and the 15th Amendment for the salvation of our people and citizens. Prove me wrong. You can't. That's why when I say somebody had to claim the ex-slaves, the United States so loved its only begotten Negroes until it created special laws to make them citizens of the states. But since a slave without his or her nationality cannot be a citizen, Moors, it stands without constitutional law for the so-called Negro to be owned by the states of the United States because of the hostilities between the North and South, and the very least that the U.S. government was forced to create the 14th Amendment. Prove me wrong. You got to understand that the Civil War was fought over territorial lands west of the Mississippi and a rebellious government known as the Southern Confederate United States. And it was not a conflict over slaves, although slaves were used in a military strategy to sway the victory for the Union. Prove me. That's why when them Europeans talk about, I fought for your freedom, man, shut up. Especially them Negroes too, you don't know what you fought for. Once the war was won, the old cliche of the victor goes the spoils came into full effect, and y'all don't even know what that means. The North and the South, what shall we do with the ex-slaves? That's what they was talking about. That's what the male Europeans, whose greatest interest is order over land and property, when you research the doctrine of discovery. Somebody had to rule jurisdiction over the freshly freed blind, cast into the interior of a new union. It was the good old Christian hospitality, not to annihilate them instead. Perhaps this may have appeared as the only choice for the U.S. government officials to make at that time, because the USA has never been without slaves, and legally this kind of possession is known as what? Assumable jurisdiction, which is the power of the government or attorney give themselves over their subjects, property or business. Actually, Moors, the word person in its context, as used in the 14th Amendment, is a masterful work of deception and has fooled milestones of best legal minds in modern American history. I promise you this. Those few that do not know will not tell they were sworn by secrecy prior to receiving their information. But see, ain't nothing secret with me. Remember, Moors, all three of the Reconstruction Amendments ratified by Congress between 1865 and 70 were written exclusively about the slaves and ex-slaves. The most damaging by far is the 14th Amendment. Here you have persons is always referring to the ex-slaves, is a word held to protect the civil rights of the Negro, black, and colored, but was broadened by the Supreme Court to include corporations, other properties, and businesses under its Equal Protection Clause. The word is today as much as the 3/5 formula in the basic U.S. Constitution, which caused too bright of the light in the letter of the law. Through the Constitution, Moors, the word person, as applied to the African Americans, or whatever misnomer you choose, is still equivalent to the same individual and corporate property as always. So to sum it up, Moors, the 14th terminology, persons or person, and the word property are synonymous or the same or interchangeable. The Negro referred to in the unchanged, the 1779 U.S. Constitution as 3/5 is the same property referred to as persons in its 1868 14th Amendment, 89 years later from that date. Again, more proving the corporate United States of America, with the exception of 3 years, 1865 to 68, had never been without its slaves. Prove me wrong. And then they on that stage talk about some damn reparations. How can a scholar, how can them Dr. Cornel West and all them T.I. and Killer Mike get up there and talk about some reparations? And I just told y'all, a Negro, black, and slave, you ain't gonna never get no reparations. You ain't no damn, so you nothing. Negroes today, they would never have rights. Misnomers, Negro, blacks, and colored, being the names of denationalized humans, property, were never designed to have no rights. Labor property, the Negro, black, and colored, can never have true rights, because all rights are contingent upon universal, natural, and or civil laws. Before there can be rights, there must be laws from which rights derive their strength. And since the Negro does not have a constitution or laws of autonomy from which to govern itself, he or she cannot have lawful rights. This is why the great Dred Scott decision of 1857 is stated, and I quote, Negroes, Negro mean black, has no rights that true citizens are bound to respect. And this divine and civil law was ratified in the 14th Amendment under the word persons and sealed in its section 4, which stated in essence that Negroes, persons, whether free or slave. And then you got these Negroes talking about they some Freemason. You a black Mason, you are still a slave. You got some European potentate, don't stop lying to me. Or slave, have no rights to compensation or reparations. Do you hear me? So them Negroes talk about some reparations. They just up there wasting y'all time. Y'all Negroes done donated, done toned into that crap, and I'm right here. Put me on the stage with them. I'll destroy that garbage. Let me tell you again. This divine and civil law was ratified in the 14th Amendment under the words persons and sealed in its section 4, which stated in essence that Negroes, persons, whether free or slave, I don't care if you know Mason, no Negro, no damn Greek fraternity, no stupid ass rapper, have no rights to compensation or reparations. So why your black ass up there talking about reparations and you know damn well a black, a Negro, you can't get no reparations? That's plain and simple. Why? Why would you say that, Brother Bay? Because I just read the damn law. I'm in favor of reparations, just like anybody is. But this stately restitution is only reserved for constituted governments for atrocities imposed against another recognized nation, tribe, and their family bearing what? The same free national name. And by design, the Negro, black, and colored is neither of these. And to avoid paying reparations to these Negroes and to these blacks and descendants of these so-called ex-slaves is the main reason for Congress of the United States writing the Section 4 into the de facto 14th Amendment to recycle the end of Negro, black, and colored slaves, persons, identifications. And this amendment is nothing short of a title of ownership and assumable jurisdiction of the free nation of people brought forth by Congress in the 13th Amendment. First, the Negro, black, and colored must be free as a people, bearing one free national name. Then and only then will they be able to claim rights which will draw its powers from their own constituted laws and principles. Until these laws are adhered to, the misnomer black, Negro, black, and colored remain as chattel and without rights. The Negroes can only function under granted privileges demonstrated with the 15th Voting Privilege Amendment. Research that. It's been existing conditions since the 3/5 clause of 1779. I'm telling you. I stand against any so-called Negro, black, and colored graduate that just passed the bar. I destroy that garbage they talk about when it comes to the law of the freedom. Today's any graduate lawyers of the ABA exams would argue that the 3/5 clause and the Dred Scott decision were overruled by the 14th Amendment. That's BS. They will lose that case. I done destroyed that so many times when explaining how the same slave labels of Negro, black, and colored that lawfully began in 1779 are still certified as state-owned property today. Today. What I'm talking about is just the birth certificate of live birth. These is facts. It's just what it is. There is not a rightful law on earth that can make a citizen from a mold design to produce shapes of property. And an African American, etc., being another misnomer, is the egg slot of slave labels and are exclusively made in America. And this is why privileges granted to property should never be misconstrued as being the same as true rights earned by citizens of a free national government. I'm telling you. The last of the Reconstruction Amendments result from the Great Rights of Suffrage of 1870. The amendment gave guaranteed voting powers to the free male Negro slave. But it was not because America so loved the Negro that it gave them the right to vote as all other citizens. We know that's bull crap. You know why they wanted you to vote. See, the ex-slaves greatly outnumbered their former masters. That's what y'all don't know. Your own Negroes kept y'all in slavery because you outnumbered masters. So the 15th Amendment was created to give them the power to vote, even though 98% of them couldn't even read. So you know what that was all about. So citizens of the U.S. were guaranteed the right to vote in the very first article of the Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, Clause 1. Therefore, Moors, the 15th Amendment was purely for the purpose of pacifying a segment of the civilian populace for a time. This is why the 13th and the 14th and the 15th Amendments, Moors, are all prompted by the government to quell some form of civil unrest. And this form of government tactic is not new. I'm telling you. In historical retrospect, Moors, we talk about things Rome crucified Yahshua according to their laws, not because he was guilty, but because Caiaphas of the Jewish Sanhedrin had threatened massive destruction to the city and Pilate's palace if the demands weren't met, right? So that's why I'm saying that the Negro, black, and colored will perpetually remain as chattel and without rights. Our prophet was the first Moorish counsel to diagnose this ex-slave and unintended victim of mental slavery. This widespread psychic trauma, we're traumatized. No one will ever cry out for the Moors. We must teach our science. When we tell you how to free all of us, behind the scenes of the U.S. Reconstruction Amendments, you have, now I hope I gave y'all a crash course on these laws, on the 13th, 14th, and the 15th Amendment. A lot of this stuff is wrapped up in masonry. A lot of Negro, blacks, and colored, even felons, all that stuff. You should be going to your libraries. I'm telling you. Some of the people that don't understand what I'm saying, go research what I'm saying. You would be surprised to see that the plan, it was to keep the ex-slaves holding steadfast to slave names, even hundreds and hundreds of years later. First, you got to understand, Moors, that I done proved so many times. You can no more make a bond citizen out of a Negro, black, and colored than make a Muslim eat swine on a privilege to the holy city of Mecca. That's why you got to balance this lawful history with the United States officially losing its sovereignty in 1871, returning to its original corporate status as when it was just British colonies. And your summation will be simply this, Moors. During that time, you can research this. All crimes committed since 1871 are commercial crimes, and cannot be a part of any legal proceedings. True constitutional governments do not have nor honor corporate judiciously. A black political hostage is a state of encompassment. It is the state of unnatural existence that envelopes the so-called black people, which is seen by the masses, Moors, yet is largely unnoticed due to the obscure definition. So in the essence, Moors, this state of colorable, legalized enslavement of a nation of people held here in the United States of America. That's why to reveal this phenomenon, it's necessary to dissect the word black. When I talk about black, political, and the word hostage. So let's deal with black. It's only a word, not a color. According to the science, means death, void in light, absence of life, negative. If we're talking about the context of who you are, political, the practice, influence of a government, anything pertaining to or relating to the policy or administration of government, state or national, the exercise of the functions vested in those charged with the conduct of government to control its public policy, the exercising of governmental powers, hostage, any person, persons, family, tribe, national, or people once free, now captured, usually kidnapped, from alien origin, held against his or her will with their freedom and or life or service to stand as ransom or security. Now hostage taken in the US, ironically, that's a federal crime, right? Research title 18U.S.C.A-1203. And nearly it always invoke various kidnapping statutes. So technically, Moors, these are polite legal terms to soften the impact of the unlawful taking of human beings, realized as an act of kidnapping per se, if we're going to deal with laws. Enslavement, or in the case of European women, white slavery. However, today, Moors, it is not considered politically correct to use the root word slave or its attributes when speaking of the USA. I hope y'all know what I'm saying. So the origin of the black political hostage, Moors, it began with the transfer of slave ownership from powerless Southerners to the constitutional fold of government for the restoring of the United States. I hope y'all follow me. I'm sorry, y'all understand what I'm saying? Are you feeling me, Moors? Most people, especially the Negro, blacks, and color, assume either the Emancipation Proclamation or the 13th and the 14th Amendment freed and made them citizens, right? But in fact, the document enacted during the 5-year period I told y'all from 65 to 70, it did not free them unconditionally, but it transferred us. It transferred us as property from one owner to another. I told y'all that, right? It's also equally true that the newly freed people, they were now a nation. They didn't know. And this law only brought temporary harmony and satisfaction between the Scottish and the York rights in the North and the South. When I tell y'all the history of Freemasonry, I'm telling y'all, you can't get mad at me. That's why I tell y'all, everybody got a birth certificate. Lawful proof blacks are not citizens, or the blank check. Don't change your birth certificates because you are going to get paid, and paid with compound interest for what they done to you during the time. That's why if you're going to bring up charges, you don't get rid of the evidence. You don't get rid of the evidence. Right? Lawful and assumable jurisdiction, slavery. The state seals are stamped upon every birth certificate. The state's document have been authorized by the U.S. Congress through its signature sign at the last article of each Reconstruction Amendment, particularly Moors the 14th. And what most Negro, blacks, and colors don't know, especially those that last with the latest civil outcry of reparations now and that garbage, is their state-owned certificate of live birth. And it's actually their blank check. That's why when it's payable to them upon proof of proper status, identification, when we deal with things legally and lawfully, not no check you finna get from nobody. I hope y'all understand what I'm saying. That's what the 40 acres and a mule look like. See, the people labeled Negro and colored African Americans state issue birth certificates are official anchors to the chain of the judicial documents declaring them as property, subjects of the courts via the states wherein we reside, and other subsequent certificates and certifications range from baptism certificates, driver's license, medical and dental records, academic records, social security, authorizations, marriage, and operative license. They are all linked to the denationalization and the colorable censoring of the people because their powers derive from the original bogus certificates of live birth. Technically, more, the federal crime of their powers derive from the original bogus things that they was giving y'all. All that stuff is bogus. That's why denationalization, it takes place every time someone is born. Right? Think about this, man. If Italian, Greeks, English, Chinese, the so-called misnomer Turks, Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, is it no more than right that the law should be enforced upon all American citizens alike? Why they don't want you to claim your nationality? Think about it. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised, when he's born and raised there and asks for his national descent, name, and if he fails to give it, he is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name. Because the place and people placed, the powers placed their trust upon issues and names formed by their forefathers. That's why when I talk about the statement of naturalized, applies to every nation attached to the human family, bar the Negro, black, and colored people. And the naturalization clause permits a person to acquire nationality after birth and become entitled to the U.S. citizenship by choice and acceptance. It does not apply to the Negro, black, and colored because they have no ties alien to the United States. Therefore, the U.S. claims all Negro, black, and colored people as its property by birth. Are y'all listening to me? So what I'm saying in layman terms, the Emancipation Proclamation did not free anybody. The 13th Amendment, although it abolished the institution of slavery, also continually re-legalizing slavery upon the duly conviction of U.S. crimes. And the 14th Amendment gave the U.S. courts and states an assumable jurisdiction ownership of the Negro, black, and colored, which under colorable censoring had granted privilege and protections. And the 15th granted the Negro, black, and colored a temporary privilege to vote. Although in 1868, the southern population of Negro, blacks, and coloreds was 96% illiterate and not proclaimed as a people. The three freeing and subsequent postulates were enacted in full light of the Constitution's Fifth Amendment and the 1856 Dred Scott decision, which has never been overturned by any other Supreme Court decision, Morris, and the Masonic founding fathers and those author of the law that accept their teachings were and are very conscious that as Negro, blacks, and colored, the ex-slave would never qualify as a first-class citizen. And these labels and marks, the Negro, black, and colored, were detached from the human family and have no national or descendant rights a true citizen is bound to respect. It is crucial to know that by design, being born an American Negro, black, and colored is not a birthright. There is no heritage there and nothing to attain. There is no saving power in any slave caste. Blacks can only be produced and certified at birth in the U.S. of America because by law, America has exclusive rights to own nationalized chattel, Negro, black, and colored people. They cannot be a product and property or citizen of any other government. This is why black is only beautiful in America. In any other country, especially those populated by people of you, black loses its United States value within the interior. And they become free nationals. Upon this, don't y'all know that? But excuse me, they lose within their interior. Other countries, you know that, right? But when our prophet returned from Africa, remember when Richard Pryor came? And Pryor said of the word nigger, I was there for weeks and I never even thought of it, the word Negro or nigger, whatever, because they weren't any. I was wrong. Little did Prior L realize that Negro, black, and color are simple American-made products. I promise you. Negro, blacks, and color can only be made and born in America. The same person born anywhere else will be born a free national of that sovereignty. I promise you that. The 14th Amendment is simply saying blacks are property of the U.S. by certified birth of any state within the jurisdiction of the United States and are claimed by birth hereby. That's a fact. Not one Negro, black, and color has ever been naturalized by law. You can't prove me wrong. Prior to 1970 and the 1980s, nearly all state birth certificates displayed the race of the newborns by mother's maiden and father's name. Think about this. Supposedly abolished slave names of Negro, black, and colored was clearly marked on the certificates. However, due to a rise in the Moorish consciousness, most states gradually faded away the blatant enslaved labels on the certificates and retired them to hospital medical records and the State Bureau of Vital Statistics. These same slave names once appeared on the mandatory breeding charts maintained by slave owners during the time of legal slavery. Today, states are required to keep these records in their Bureau of Vital Statistics. I'm telling you. Behind the public dispensing the Negro, black, and colored birth certificates from the hospital records to the state capitol's Bureau of Vital Statistics. I'm telling you what I know. So, the truth about reparations. Why a Negro or Black Lives Matter, you ain't gonna never get no damn reparations. Stop fooling yourself. I'm down for reparations and money and all that to be paid to the United States to surviving of the so-called slaves and ex-slaves. But I must also say, Morris, from history and a scholar, and I don't get all emotional. I deal with facts and law. Reparations will never be given to no damn Negro, no color, no Black Lives Matter, no people, no Negro, black, and color. Like those who call themselves African Americans. These people, in any of the aforementioned status, simply do not have legal, historical, or national muster to merit reparations. You can't prove me wrong. Negroes just be talking. That's why these fake historians, these entertainers, these black scholars, the unjust mistake of not studying the law when they study in a particular history. Because to study a particular part of history, Negro, you better be studying the law and the language. That's how they getting over on y'all with that linguistic apartheid. But see, I'll destroy that garbage. Law governs all events. And this includes history. Although no history is an exact science because it's usually written by the conquerors. And most conquerors care very little about the past events of those they conquered. And this is what I'm saying when it's placed upon histories, have the same origin as the description of the crime as told by the criminal. Very little consideration is ever given to the values of the victim. What on earth would make a Negro, black, and colored think the United States of America would tell the so-called blacks the main reason they ain't getting no damn reparations coming to them because they black? And because you walk around and call yourself some Black Lives Matter. That's the fact. That's the number fact right there. They ain't finna treat you fair. They bust your head because you call yourself you black. There is but one true way that the people can duly receive reparations. And upon this setting, we got to examine the historical phenomenon with a legal eye. Reparations. Y'all love the black laws? Let's get it. The 6th edition. Payment for any injury or damage for a wrongdoing. Several states have adopted the Uniform Crime Victims Reparation Act. Certain federal statutes also provide for reparation for a violation of the act. Persons suffering losses because of violations of Future Trades Act may seek reparation under the act against violator. 7 U.S.C.A. number 18. Payment made by 1, the act of making amendment for a wrong. 2, compensation for an injury or wrong. For a wartime damages or breach of an international obligation. What's a breach of an international obligation? A treaty. That's the highest law of the land. reparative injunction. Y'all don't even know what an imperative injunction means. An injunction requiring the defendant to restore the plaintiff to the position that the plaintiff occupied before the defendant committed the wrong. So y'all go to court and don't even know the law. That's why I be laughing like these Negroes just taking pictures in front of courts. Preventative injunction. Only about 1 in every 50,000 well-trained, miseducated Negro, Black, and colored Americans know since 1868 that the 14th Amendment has declared reparations to all persons subject to its jurisdictions as unconstitutional. This means especially those United States ex-slaves and their descendants. So don't be deceived by the 1,000 and 100 individual in these groups talk about some stupid ass reparations now. They know damn well you ain't finna get nothing. All reparation now movements are being showcased by prominent Black U.S. law professionals, McManus legal firms, politically leaders, and these stupid civil rights activists, followed by flocks of sincere individuals. See, the individuals be sincere. I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about the people that plan, that's lying to you. Put me on the stages with them and see what they gonna do. All they can do is put their tail in their ass, because I'm coming with straight law, international law. It ain't nothing they can say. They all some damn frauds and liars. I don't care about no lying ass degree. They demanded compensation owed for centuries of unpaid slave labor. Get the hell out of here. Whether innocent or ignorant, they are now pursuing realms served for all free national beings. In their pursuit of reparations today, African Americans are attempting to wade into the very depths of international waters while dry docked by the de facto slave labels of Negro, Black, and colored, Black Lives Matters bullshit. With all due respect to these celebrities and all this garbage, they are being dangled in front of you, in front of the masses of the Negro, Blacks, and colored, like a ripened carrot in front of a damn donkey. It don't take much memory to recall. There are masterful reasons why slaves have never been allowed to have leaders at any time in the histories of slavery. Slavery in the United States has been no different, except occasionally Moors. The makers of Negroes will systematically reward bells and whistles and give you some food. You know, give you that American dream garbage, right? So like I said, man, I don't know what to tell our brothers. Steady going around with this black stuff. Then Negro be saying they brainwashed. And I say, let me tell y'all something about military. Brainwashing is one of the few felonies committed daily through society at large, but it's restricted to military courts for adjudication. I'm telling you, it's things that I know for a fact. People be asking, how do a person correct their status? Negro, Black, and color and descendants of slaves are not U.S. citizens by birth or choice. That's that naturalization. So you gonna get people that just post, and I love my empresses, but a lot of empresses just be posting stuff, and then when I start checking the laws, they just be talking. But by birth or choice, naturalization. North America is a continent that holds 3 governments: USA, Canada, and Mexico. The 13th United States of that America was brought forth on this continent by the Foreign Fathers, a new nation. And for the ex-slaves, the 14th Amendment is not sealed as a permanent law and with the power to continue for an indefinite time. It's only as stable as the slave labels that is founded upon. So without the existence of a Negro, Black, or colored, its powers then could only circumscribe real property, personal chattel, not persons, as it does. Are y'all listening? This amendment could still be used for granted privileges and colorable immunities to pacify civil unrest, like gay rights, no disrespect to nothing, I'm just giving y'all law, gay rights, affirmative actions, and other civil rights issues, as it does today. But with the Moorish being themselves and no longer a part of the 14th Amendment, then what good would it be with its Negroes? See, before the allegations of any crime can be legally arranged, prosecuted, or adjudicated, the accused must first properly identified, and the lawful jurisdiction over that person must be met. to correct any improper, non-binding, or otherwise ex post facto status, one must simply declare their natural personage and pay little to no attention to their improper allegations to the status quo. Y'all ain't listening. Status and proper identification. When something, someplace, or something is falsely identified, their true value has been misdirected, displaced, and cannot be attained. If a person takes a bottle, clearly marked poison with an X, a skull, and crossbones, then pours the venomous contents into a separate bottle labeled cough syrup. See, that's a crime. The content and the label are incorrect, it's deceptive, and legally improper. See, the potency of the poison does not change, and in itself is neither criminal nor liable. Poison is naturally itself poisonous. Like so, the word Negro, black, color, that bullshit, Black Lives Matters, do not lose their meaning because of the slaves they were attached to. Just because someone said Negro, blacks, and color are now classified as citizens, subject to jurisdiction, by no means changes the meanings of the words. And like the poison, falsely the labels is a crime, but does not alter the nature of the truth. And for those college degrees, those that make them boast of dual citizenship by using African American with that signature, take a closer look. An African American is illegally no different than the other misnomers of Negro, black, and color. First, you got to understand that Africa is a continent that has never given out continental citizenship in any of its histories. Plus, it has no flag. Africa has no flag. No constitution, because Africa is neither a country nor government. Secondly, a hyphen joins two words. A hyphen joins two words together to make a combined unit of one. Thirdly, an American is of or pertaining to the United States. Research in the law dictionary. So here is another impossibility, because there is no continental governments at large from which to issue credentials of citizenship. So much for assumed nationality of some called Afro-American. An African-American identity is one of the same breed of unnaturalized and meaningless slave labels as all other Negro, blacks, and colors. It still bottom lines the claimer to the 14th Amendment. For what is worth, the salvaging value in this amendment for the Negro, black, and color is sad. That's why it's not a penny's worth of difference between a black slave than there is a free black. When these Negroes talk about they some free Masons, some free black Masons, you a slave. The status of black was and evermore shall be designed to delude any human slavery. Its application simply has no other meaning. Come on, man. You got to take the infamous Dred Scott case, 1857, which the U.S. court decided Negroes could never be citizens of the USA. Except this time, let's give old Dred Scott Bay his true Moorish identity. According to Article 3, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution, let's expose a case of controversy. See, I get into the law, which the United States shall be a party, legally, also called Negro, black, and colored people, are declared label and names of slaves and property. These marks were first introduced through Black Codes laws of 1774, replacing the true nationality and tribal names of the enslaved Africans. We got to remember that blacks are made in America. They never was imported. In 1779, Congress ratified these labels, and slavery as an American institution lasted until 1865 during the time of lawful slavery. I told y'all the 14th and the 15th Amendment. The labels are encompassed in the 3/5 clause. Legally, the institution of slavery was abolished by the 13th Amendment as ratified by Congress, except when imposed upon duly convicted felons. You ain't know that, did you? But also in that year, from wishful masters, men of the means and judges, there rose such a clatter. It was that word abolish. What can that be the matter? There's something about that word abolish that's pissed off every European or Albion Mason, every Klansman, and other God-fearing Confederate Americans since 1865. This something will also tick off most ex-slaves beyond, you know what I'm gonna say. If they knew what it means, look at the legal definition of abolish found in your lovely Black Laws Dictionary that y'all wanna read. I'm almost done. Abolish, to do away with, wholly, to annul, to repeal, to rescind, abrogate, to dispense with. Applies particularly to things of a permanent nature, such as institutions, usages, customs. Abolition of slavery, abolishment, lawfully abolishment in 1865 meant out with slavery, the slave identities, Negro, black, and colored, and also with slave masters. Everything, place, person, and letter that compile the institution of slavery were all declared out of law with the absolute word abolish, right? Wrong. The institution of slavery was abolished, right? In 1865 wholly. Watch this. And dispensed with through the application to the things of a permanent nature, such as slaves, slave masters, and usage of slave names, Negro, black, and colored. Right? I'm telling you, man. And the customs of denationalization by the letter of law, when and whatever has been abolished, all that it constitutes is also rescinded, and there can be no more of the especial entity. But often when it comes to European laws, the spirit of law was contrary to its letter of the law. In a summary, what actually took place was the 13th Amendment constituted the supreme lawful effort of the United States to complete the maximum of what it could possibly do to end slavery without its jurisdiction, Moors. Are y'all listening to me? How to free black prisoners legally. The Negro, black, and colored must free themselves. But to what? Opposed to being a free citizen, one is either a prisoner or a slave, called inmates. A prisoner is one held against his or her will and remains in a constant state towards freedom. Are y'all listening to me? It must be understood until we, the Moorish, are lawfully recognized and accepted an accomplished nation. The 14th Amendment assumes all African descendants, our so-called blacks, our federal prisoners here in the USA, and the majority is the minimum security, which has more requests and allow granted privileges, which are colorable rights. For those prisoners and other citizens who think slavery in the US have been totally abolished, you gotta read the 13th Amendment. The 13th Amendment to the US Constitution has only sections, and through them, the duly convinced legal acquire the status of a slave. And originally Moors, there was a full stabilization status of the newly freed Moors during the Abraham Lincoln administration. I'm telling you, it's the same mental slavery under physically emancipated Moors, the so-called blacks. And they are still slaves and unidentified political prisoners. See the 13th Amendment, the full 20 sections. That's why our status must be corrected. All people who are free nationals born with the inalienable rights to inherit nationality of their forefathers, Chinese, German, Egyptian, or Moorish, any act lawful or disguised which deprives a person or people of this birthright given by their creator in an act of denationalization and genocide. These first-degree criminal violations for any government to enact upon a people under colorable amendment to its constitutional laws. Hence formal charges, what? Charges against the United States of the Americas. That's what it is. I'm just talking about law. That's law. That's why lawyers and judges will slap a Negro, a black or colored, in the face with statements like the 14th Amendment overruled the Dred Scott case and made the Negro, currently African American, citizens of the US. Man, shut up. And the Negro, black, and colored are United States citizens by birth and in the state of Virginia, Maryland, New York, North Carolina, and New York, and thus subject to the jurisdiction of the federal courts. The truth is, Morris, I promise you, your lawyer buddy, your brother that's lying to you, especially if he or she also claim to be a Negro, black, and colored, they have never been introduced to the level of law and history, or they would have my pen in their hand. Would the same master that enslaved you also educate you to be greater than them? This is why it's written in the Bible, no slave is greater than the master. With this said, Morris, I'm giving you the exhuming of the nation, the confirmation in a dire violation of the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 9, in parentheses CL.3 and 10, which is ex post facto, and the courts that enforce these laws are criminally liable based on their laws, not me. I'm just giving you the law. A fact is that all slave names, slave masters, and slave were legally abolished in 65. Slave identifying marks of Negro, black, and colored, which were names given to those enslaved, were also voided with their institution because these names were applied to capture and important African Moors, were demorable, and on the act of denationalization, which placed them out of their proper person to be treated unfairly, unjust. Hence, Negro, black, and colored is lawfully 3/5 of a person still, and according to the federal rule, Title 18, Section 241 and 242, no one has the right, especially under cages and courts, to denationalize, deprive any rights, privileges, or immunities by reason of color of race, whereas the courts hereby demanded to prove that the Negro, black, and colored is a lawful status with a descendant nature within the scope of nationality or national origins of forefathers equal to all other people. Further prove this status exists before the establishment of the Constitutional Congress and after the congressional death in 65. In addition, Negro, black, and colored is declared property, and no property can testify against itself in court of law. Only its owner must appear. Therefore, who owns the Negro, black, and colored? That was declared out in 65 with the institution of slavery. It is the appearance of the rightful ownership of property, not the property required to answer in the court of law. Courts enforcing mere status or statutes do not act judicially, but merely ministerially, thus having no judicial immunity, and unlike courts of law, do not obtain jurisdiction by service of process, nor even arrest and compel appearance. Look at the law case, see Boswell versus Otis, 9 HOW.336-348, 2 WIT. I'm giving you precedent in law cases. Their law cases, their pen tell you to challenge jurisdiction. This is what their pen tell you. Jurisdiction is essentially the authority conferred by Congress to decide a given type of case, one way or another. Research Haggins versus Levine or Levine. Jurisdiction is a term which embraces every kind of judicial action. It defines the powers of courts to inquire into facts, apply the law, make decisions, and declare judgment. Jurisdiction always in one of proper parties to be present. Once jurisdiction is challenged, it must be proven. I mean, I can go on and on when we talk about shifting the burden, but I'm gonna leave y'all with that, man, because I can teach you all day. But you not Negro, black, and colored pertaining to law. Prove me wrong. So why we gonna steady follow these entertainers, these celebrities talk about some Black Lives Matter and black you would be a slave for life? I'm right here. I challenge anybody. That black, that Negro-centric, that Afro-centric, that's garbage. I challenge anyone. Anybody got a question? I'll give 10 minutes of questions. Hold on. So that's it. Any questions, man? Like I said, I'm gonna tweet out the information of how when students and the general public, if y'all want to see future lectures, because Saturday and Sunday we're going to be on Zoom meeting. If you're not a member and a student, if you want to see both days of teachings, our Saturday, our civics and history and law, and then our Sunday school, it'll be a donation for each day. It'll be a donation for each of those days. Once you send a donation, please send an email to goodmancurry@gmail.com. What you say? You're blowing my mind. I'm a 20-year-old Moor. I must join your school. Been meditating. Been meditating every day on it. Getting finances right, cuz no time to play. I know you're serious, and I want to show I am too. Islam. But I forgot what I was saying. Oh, but anyway, for non-members and students, it's $10 for civics and history and law Saturday, and $10 for a Sunday school. We're going to be doing each of them at 2:30 p.m. Once you send that donation to our Cash App, $KGB, please email me, say, hey, Noble, this such and such, such and such, for I can send you the link to log on to the Zoom meeting. I hope you have your faces. Your faces can be on there because you're going to be able to ask questions. My members, all you obligated to do is $5 each time we speak. That's $5 one Saturday and Sunday. That's only $10. The same process goes for you too. Once you send a donation, say, hey, Noble, this, brother, such and such, I'm a student, blah, blah. And I send you the link for the teachings. Of course, we're giving our membership dues each month. And it's Allah's will, man, we'll have a temple out here soon. That's what I use the donations for, man, to build. Any other questions, man? We got to build this physical temple. And everything is tax exempt with me. You get a tax exempt receipt at the end of the year. Man, our temple can be big and everything already. And we don't have to let these chumps be lying to the people. Any questions? I told you I'm going to keep coming to y'all. I'm going to do another lecture tomorrow that I did. I'm going to show y'all that Africa is not named after a European. I did this so many times. Just like I told y'all, the reason why I did it at the college campus at Grand Canyon. And then the Moors sent me something. This is when that stuff came out, Hidden Colors, by that one dude. And he was like, see, Noble, he on here talking about Africa was named after a European. I destroyed that garbage. That's that Negro-centric propaganda. And that's why I say, and these brothers call themselves scholars. And I'm like, that's elementary science. We destroyed that. Africa was not named after no European. And I'm going to teach y'all that tomorrow. That's that Negro-centric garbage. Get us caught up in emotion. That ain't no scholarship. Any questions, Moors? Anybody got a quick question? I know it take a little bit to type that, but on Zoom meeting, you're gonna be able to speak. Your face gonna be on there. You're gonna be able to speak. I'm gonna have my laptop up. You're gonna be able to speak. You hear me? Any questions, Moors? Please, Moors. We speaking. We accept all donations. Cash App, $KGB. It don't matter if it's $1. It goes to the storehouse. We help and do things. I help a lot of children, man. I do a lot of community work, but everything goes to what we doing. I guess you got to download Zoom. Yeah, you got to download Zoom. How else you gonna have it? Come on. How else you gonna have it? Well, you better download it. A lot of stuff we never had before. I'm learning how to do everything. That's why I said we got to get into the technology. We got to learn. Just like if you was going to college online and the teacher say, okay, well, you got to have a computer, you got to know how to log on. And you have a student say, well, I don't know how to do it. Well, you got to learn if you want to be part of this teaching. You're not physically here in Arizona, so you can't come to where we teaching at. So if we want to be a part of the teachings, that's the only way we're going to do it. Because I'm getting off YouTube. Yep. You must, you got to download Zoom. You must download Zoom. You got to have it. If I send you the link and you don't have Zoom, it ain't going to do you no good. If I send you the link and you don't download, it's not going to do you any good. That's why I tell Moors, we must follow orders. And I'm not talking about nobody individually. We must follow the instructions. That's all you got to do is download the app. And see, we download all other stuff. I mean, that's what I'll be saying when it come down to learning. And I'm not talking about nobody specifically. When it come down to learning things, a lot of Moors make excuses. Well, I don't know how to do this and this, but we be on the internet all day. We be doing this all day. And I'm telling y'all, we can build legally and lawfully. We can have the biggest temple out here. Man, Moors can start moving out here. I can show y'all how we start building on our acres. We can have hundreds of acres with the money that Moors just wasting, buying designer clothes and raggedy cars and going on stupid vacations, getting their income tax money, blowing it. But we can have our own Goodman Bay area up in St. John's, Arizona. And then have our big temple in the city. I'm telling you, man, I told Moors I travel all over. It's sad that, no disrespect, I go teach at universities, and these be college students. When they say, when they ask for they be like, well, what's your donation to come, to travel? And anywhere here locally, like Vegas, California, I only charge $1,500 as a donation. They like, that's it? And then one more asked me to come to their temple. Here it is, it's 50, 60 of them. And I say, well, man, I said, it's just $3,000. If I got to come all the way to travel where you want me to come, you know what I mean? I got to stay for a minute and get a hotel. These Negroes want me to come out of my pocket. And I'm coming with books and literature for your donations. And you get a taxes and receipt. But Negroes will be in church and get them preachers all their money. And don't get no science and ain't bringing nothing back into the community. Them preachers don't even live in the community. So any questions, man? Any questions? Y'all got 4 more minutes. I said I'm gonna answer 10 minutes worth of questions. None yet? I'm gonna stay on for 4 more minutes. That's why I said on Zoom for my members and students and brothers and sisters that donating, you will be able to ask questions. That's why I said I want to make this exclusive. I don't want to just be people that's be popping on my page, and you got these Negroes that's trolls, and then you got these Europeans, Albions that's trolls, and you got these Negro blacks and colors that's trolls, just asking a whole bunch of stupid ass questions, knowing damn well they can't refute none of this science that I'm giving. Three more minutes. Three more minutes, and we're done. Thank for the donation, Morris. Very appreciative. Thank you for the donation. And I'm telling y'all, Morris, anybody want to be a student, just like I tell a young noble, it's okay to get your finances together. That's what we're supposed to do. I'm a finance major. I help other people get their finances together. I help other people set their businesses up, and they pay me. That's why I'll be in tears. But Noble, if you want to be a student, remember, it's a one-time $250 donation. You don't even have to pay it at one time. I tell them all you got to do is give a $5 donation each day for 50 days. And that will be your $250. Every time you give a donation, a $5 donation, that goes to you being a student. And in 50 days, you become a student. It's that simple. Or any other donation. You don't got to stress yourself and try to pay it all at one time. I'll be trying to show Moors and brothers how to save and prepare. Like a lot of misnomer Negroes, they don't want to talk about finances, and they'll try to pay all their bills at the end of the month with one stupid check. I'm like, man, you ain't even making enough to pay all your bills with one check. Stop lying to the people. You just dressed up. You ain't taking nothing out of each check to prepare. And that's how I show Moors. You must be conscious of everything, especially your finances, if you want to do something, because it's the way to be done. I'm not answering that. I'm not answering that question you just asked. I told Moors. I just said I'm not answering no questions. You said, is it recommended or required to go through the course for the name change? I ain't never said you was changing your name. I say this over. That's why I want people to be students. I just said I'm not on here for people just to be asking me questions. And they not students and they not giving donations. Like you just want me to answer some questions. I never said you was changing your name. And then when Moors, when I speak like this, they get all upset. I said, I never told you changed your name. Where I said you changed your name at? That's false teachings. I said you correcting a misspelling. You don't need no name change affidavit. You ain't got to go to the DMV and say, oh, I'm changing my name. Well, you changing your name. You annexing, if you know about navigating, you annexing your religious suffix. And that's why I'm saying how Moors be misguided. And that's why I said I'm not here just to answer questions. When most Negro, blacks, and color get in trouble, you don't go to no attorney. You pay a retainer fee, and then you pay the European to make you plead to something. And then most Negro, blacks, and colored Moors, they want to ask me questions. And I'm like, man, Moors won't even give a $5 donation. A $5 donation. And I'm like, come on, I wouldn't do nobody like that. I wouldn't do nobody like that. Only Moors be wanting to do, they just be wanting to get on here and ask me a whole bunch of questions. Like the same way I'm like, what is this? I'm like, what Moors be doing? This only want to ask a whole bunch of questions, not wanting to learn, and then when I speak boldly, we get upset. When I'm like, man, are y'all playing a game, or like, is this a joke? Negroes still want to ask somebody for permission. How's somebody gonna tell you who you are? Negroes go to the DMV and talk about, I need a name change shit. Talk to the lady at the window, I'm changing my name. I'll laugh at you too and send you out of there. And then when more say correction, annexation. And I'm like, well, if correction what? Well, if it's annexation, if we know annexation, which I know Moors don't research, annexation does not mean changing. Show me somewhere where annexation means changing. And then Moors get upset because we think a piece of paper gonna make us free. And we must proclaim, declare, and have due process first. Before we do anything, we must annex our Bay and our L on our names in our everyday life. That's the first thing about self-identifying. You must be 100% sure who you are and self-identify. That's what I be saying. But the first thing we want to do, we want to be some paper pushers. That's what we want to do. We want to go get some paper and post it on the internet. Like, look what I did. Like, that means some shit. And it ain't no disrespect to you, Noble. I'm just in general, because that's how most Moors be coming. That's how most Moors be coming. They ask a whole bunch of questions. Oh, well, I need to be a student before I can claim my nationality. I'm like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about to claim your nationality? How can I claim your nationality? How you gonna claim your nationality with me? I tell y'all this over and over. No temple, no man can make you something you already are. They only bring that stuff to y'all. If they can make you a Moor, they can make a Sudanese or a Chinese. Any questions, man? I'm done. I want y'all to become students and members. And as y'all, and if Moors donate and give an offering, yes, I'll answer questions. But I'm not here just to be, for a person just to be, okay, I'm gonna write a whole bunch of questions down and ask Noble 50 million questions. And then after you ask the questions, then what? You gonna go ask somebody else something to see what they say, and then you gonna go around. That's what Moors do. That's chasing their damn tail, debating and shit. This is asinine, man. We gotta come together. And I'm right here. Any questions, man? Any questions? Because I ran my mouth. One person asked a question about natural. That was not the question I'm asking. Ask me something about law. Ask me something about what we do as a people. Not what nobody told you or want to try to get some answer out of me. That ain't what this is about, Moors. So with that being said, man, I love y'all. I love y'all. I love y'all. Islam, Islam, Islam. Like I said, Saturday and Sunday, we're going to be doing Zoom meetings. I'm going to post it out on my page. I'm going to spell it out, how you can donate and what you need to do. And we're going to continue to grow. Moors, all my new students that's coming in, I shipped out a lot of books. I'm waiting for a lot of tassels to come in before I can finish some more fezzes, and I'll be shipping those out, you know? It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. You're going to get there. So it ain't even no issue, Noble. I ain't going nowhere. This is life teachings. We're going to correct us. We're going to be a family. We're going to be a unit. We're going to change this paradigm. You know what I mean? We're going to change this whole paradigm. It ain't about being dressed up. A person that look like they know, and then front and act like they know, and they're not willing to know, and they're not willing to be educated by their own brother. That's an elite. That's an adept. That's a scientist. That's a scholar. You got to step over that person. That's a fraud. But like I said, once again, man, I love y'all, man. Islam.